morning. Today we are leaving for Niagara Falls. I think we're going to take the slow route, stop and see Lake Ontario, and meander our way down, stopping at whatever catches our fancy. Our first stop when we got to the Niagara area was to visit the Canal Center to watch and understand how the ships move from Lake Ontario to Lake Erie. We were lucky that when we were at the viewing station there was a big ship coming through, and so we got to see it move through the canal and be raised up and then launched out. There's a lot of footage that we took this day, but I've cut it down to about 25% and sped it up, so hopefully it won't be too boring for you to watch. When we were done at the Canal Center, then we decided to drive up to Lake Ontario to have some lunch. We found a little park where we ate out of our cooler. Unfortunately, it was not a beach, so we couldn't get down to the water. But here's Johan standing in front of Lake Ontario, and if you look carefully over his head, you might be able to see the skyline of Toronto. One of our first stops down the Niagara Parkway was to stop and get some fresh cherries. As we continued on, Ed stopped at a vineyard and bought a bottle of organic wine to take home. They had some sheep here and a pond where you could look for frogs. We didn't do that part. We continued our meandering along the parkway, stopping at scenic overlooks, until we reached Lake Erie. It was really windy up here at Lake Erie and not a lot of people, but we were able to get down to the water and walk along the beach, pick up some sand and a few shells. Not a lot of stones here. After leaving Lake Erie, we took the QEW back up to Niagara Falls and walked down to the falls and walked along the viewing area. Here Johan and Ed are admiring the American Falls and then the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. We enjoyed watching the boats take the tourists up close to the falls where all the spray was. Here's a picture of the boat with the American Falls. Of course, me with the Horseshoe Canadian Falls, and then a boat going into the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. Here are some different views of the falls as we work our way along the parkway up to the visitor center. We got wet with all the mist as we walked along. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was the diversity of people who were at the falls viewing it with us. And so when we got to the visitor center, I took some video footage of everybody who was there watching the falls with us, just to give you an idea of just how crowded it was and all the different people that we saw. Ed was going for the ultimate shot of the falls and was disobeying the sign about not going over the divider on the walkway. At the visitor center, they had a big display for the 150th anniversary of Canada. Unfortunately, there were too many people to take a good picture. Here is the illumination of the falls, the red, white, and red for the Horseshoe Canadian Falls, and the red, white, and blue for the American Falls. We're tired, we're going home and going to bed.